Welcome back to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Give us a follow on Twitter at Mark Zinno and at Locked On ATL. Up here now, one of my favorite guests, my good friend. We work together at another outlet called Pickswise, but you can see her and hear her all over Bally Sports as she is the Hawks sideline reporter. And it is Lauren Jbara joining us here on.
What is up?
Jay, how are you, girl? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing? It's like raining outside though. Kind of
I know.
miserable, but
I know it's not the day that we wanted, not the way we wanted to start the weekend. Certainly, and not the way that the Atlanta Hawks wanted to start their offseason, was getting a gentleman's sweep on the way out at the hands of Miami Heat. And well, I'm not going to make the Heat series an indictment of kind of where they are. You know, I said yesterday, and I feel pretty confident in saying this, that if the goal is, I've heard people talk about like, oh, the Hawks' future is bright, and I feel good about it. Well, if bright means to be a fun team, a competitive team, and make the playoffs and win some games, then yes, the future is very bright. But if by future bright meaning win a championship, no. The one thing I know you can't do is run it back with this same crew, because at best, Lauren, right now, I think you're the sixth best team in the East. You're not as good as Milwaukee. You're not as good as Boston. You're not as good as Miami, and certainly not as good as Brooklyn, given if they are a healthy team and, they have 100% of their players for the whole year. And then on top of that, you still have a team like the 76ers that, if healthy, is better than you are. So, I don't know what changes you can really make to the core of this roster, but do you agree that they sort of can't run it back again with this same group?
I don't totally agree on that, just because we rarely saw a healthy Atlanta Hawks team this season. And I've said it before, like the beginning of the season, 5 of the guys were coming in off of surgeries and they didn't even get to participate in preseason. And just when they were kind of hitting their stride late November, early December, COVID hit the team, and 13 of the 15 guys at one point were on the COVID protocol list. So you're playing with random 10-day contract players that Trae Young's like walking into the locker room. He's like, I only know who 2 of my 15 teammates are at this point for this game. And then you kind of get everyone back, and lungs are a little, iffy, and legs are a little iffy. And finally people are starting to get healthy. And then boom, more injuries. Bogey's knee is hurting. Gallo's arm is hurting. Who else? John Collins is out with a finger sprain and a foot strain. So I think it was difficult this season, one, to see what this team is capable of with all the pieces that they do have. And 2, it was just a weird year with COVID in general, and seeing how much stronger the East got. It's hard to kind of, see what this team is completely capable of. And even in that series against the Heat, guess what? You don't have Clint Capella because he got injured in the game against the Cavs in the play-in game. Or not the Cavs. Yeah, it was the Cavs.
Yeah, it was the Cavs.
Game. And then John Collins is probably coming back a little bit too early with his finger and his foot. And you didn't get to see him at fully 100% in that series. And that was the first time that he played since March 11th. Like, you're not getting a fully healthy Hawks team to be able to base that assumption on. So I think they could run it back. I think that they maybe need to add a couple more pieces, especially on the defensive side. Well, help strengthen up the defense.
Yeah, that
obviously.
Was my next question was just, okay, so you run it back, but still your defense is terrible. Like, even if you're healthy, this is a bad defense. And so I don't know how one player necessarily makes them that much better. Because look, I mean, the core of 6 guys is set, right? Trae, John, Danilo Gallinari, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and there's one more guy, Kevin Huerter,
maybe
under, like, those 5 guys are under contract and they're not going anywhere. So, I don't know what is left for them. And I know they have a mid-level exemption, but I don't know where they go to find a high-level defender that really changes dynamically the face of this defense.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the moves that they make this offseason, to see the draft and how that kind of goes. I'm not mistaken, I don't think the Hawks have, a high draft pick by any means. But it's also going to be interesting to see, a guy like Jalen Johnson and how he develops at Summer League this year and what he can bring to the team, because that guy is freaking athletic. He can fly when he jumps in the air. And so seeing a guy who has another year of experience maybe come out, and especially on the defensive side, he's a really great rebounder. He's a really great defender. So seeing maybe what he can bring to the team. Seeing a guy like DeAndre Hunter, who was out for 8 weeks this season with a wrist surgery, with his right wrist tendon or whatever it was, come back in, because he's probably the Hawks' best defender at this point, other than Clint Capella in the rebounds that he snagged. Seeing Clint Capella healthy for a season, because he was one of the ones that came into the season. He had that Achilles treatment or surgery that he got on his Achilles tendon, so he didn't even come into the season completely healthy. And he said the first time that he really got his legs underneath him was probably in like January sometime, like after he recovered from COVID and came back, like is when you really can finally start getting into a rhythm. And Kevin Huerter said the same thing, that was really the first time after having those 8-9 days off resting for, when he had COVID, that he really felt healthy for the first time in the season. When you're having guys for the first time in the season feel healthy in January, most of the season's done at that point. So I think it's going to be interesting coming into this next season. Most of these guys are going to this offseason pretty healthy, besides John Collins, and besides Clint Capella, but I think his knee is already feeling a little bit better, just not playing on it. And just seeing how these guys come out next season after having a full summer to really train and get their legs underneath them, and then a full preseason with all of those games to really get it going so you can hit the ground running come game 1 of the 82-game schedule.
All right. I'm going to ask this question.
Please do.
Sort of, I'm not advocating anything. I'm just openly asking you to judge the job that Nate McMillian has done, because after I saw the Heat series, I began to wonder, is he the right coach to elevate this team to another level? And again, I'm not advocating him to be fired. I'm just sort of objectively asking, and I can rephrase it, I guess, what are the holes in Nate McMillian's coaching that may be holding this team back?
Honestly, I don't see many. You look at what they were able to do, and I know we talked about the playoff run last season, and this season's a different season than last season. But you saw what he was able to do when he took over, and the team went 24-9 to finish out the regular season, and then they went on the run that they did, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, were 1 win away basically from making it to the finals. And it was just, that was him and kind of the adjustments he was able to make and how hot the team got offensively. Seeing him for a full season this year, I think he was, again, throwing a lot of different pieces that's hard to coach through. Like when you walk into a locker room and you only know 2 of your 15 guys that you have on the court, like how are you supposed to be able to make in-game adjustments with players you don't even know necessarily what they're doing? Like these are random 10-day contract players that you're getting, and then having to mix and match with injuries all season long. Like this team dealt with so many injuries, and these are not just excuses. They're really not. But it's like, as a coach, how are you supposed to find that chemistry and find that rhythm? The Hawks had, I think it was like the second most different combinations for their starting lineup all season long, behind, I don't remember who the first team was, but it's like, that's tough as a coach, having to come in and try to adjust every single game, not having all of your players, and I know every coach has to do it. I know, but in terms of holes, like, I just think it was just the fate of the team this season, and the kind of the cards that they were dealt, it wasn't a great hand. It's like when you're playing euchre and you just get a lot of, 9s and 10s. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. You want to see the Jackson
guy than euchre, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you this, because David Aldridge, who's covered this league for 30 years now and knows it as well as anybody else, wrote a column for The Athletic and talked about one of the things, all the teams that had a first round playoff exit, what they needed to do in the offseason. And he said, and I thought this was really poignant, that the Hawks, it feels like they need more of an attitude adjustment than a personnel adjustment. And from the standpoint of, like, there was talk early on this year, that the Hawks had felt like they were playing like they had arrived. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and that they sort of, had this little feeling like, they were better than what they really were. And Trae Young being some of that, with the statement of, the regular season is boring. I'm going to put more focus on the postseason. Well, the results didn't bear that out. And Trae being the emotional leader of this team, is there some more maturing he has to do, or is he responsible more than the coach per se to change that sort of mentality that this team needs to be hungrier?
I Okay, so that quote from Trae at the beginning of the regular season was actually taken out of context. He went on to say after the regular season, he didn't say it's boring. It's just, I don't remember the exact words that he said, but he said the regular season isn't as exciting. And then he went on, that quote was cut off, and he actually went on to say right after that, it's just in the postseason, people get up and there's a lot of energy. And he says for every regular season game, you have to kind of cultivate that energy yourself. So it wasn't him necessarily saying the regular season is boring. I mean, everyone could agree when you're watching postseason basketball, postseason hockey, it's just everyone takes it to another level. That's just how it is. That's how it is in every single sport. And so I think that he was trying to say there that you have to get yourself up for those games. It's not just like the energy and the crowd. Like when you're playing game 37 of the regular season in Oklahoma City, like that's going to be a little bit harder to get up for than when you're playing.
Are you trying to tell me Tuesday nights in December aren't exciting in the NBA? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, that's not what I'm trying to say. But it's like you have to get yourself up for those games, and it's an energy you have to cultivate yourself with your team. And then also when you feel like maybe you don't have that chemistry right now because guys are injured and guys are in and out of the lineup, and then guys have COVID, and then more guys are injured. And it's like you're playing with so many different people. It's hard to build that chemistry with a starting lineup. So I think attitude adjustment, it was tough at the beginning of the season when the team started 4-7. It's like they came off of that Eastern Conference Finals run, and then you're coming into the next season and some guys aren't healthy, and then you're not getting the results that you necessarily want right from the beginning of the season after starting out the season with game 1 strong against the Mavs. I think it's just tough, like mentally, to get up for some of these games. But so maybe it is a little bit of an attitude adjustment, but I don't think that they're going to have a problem getting there at all, because every single year you've seen the growth in a guy like Trae Young. Every single year you've seen the growth in a guy like John Collins. You have veterans on the team like Danilo Gallinari, Lou Williams, who's a soft-spoken guy. I don't know if he's going to be on the team next year, a soft-spoken guy, but he is a leader for the team as well. People look up to him. People respect him. So I think that these players are growing every single year. Like the Hawks are a young team. They're learning. They're adjusting. They're growing, and they're going to get there. But in terms of attitude, like I think they're going to be just fine.
We'll get them a basketball Viagra. We'll have to get up in the morning. So there you go. All right, Lauren Jbara. Follow her on Twitter at Lauren Jbara. Of course, you can see her on Bally Sports on the Hawks sideline as well. Check her out on PicksWise and PicksWise.com. Great to talk to you as always. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Thanks,
we'll do this again real soon.
Yes, and also congratulations on your promotion. So excited for you.
Thank you. For those who don't know, I'm being promoted to Colonel later today. So it's a big day in Zinno world. Hopefully I'm going to cheer for it. But thank you very much. Very humbly accept your praise.
Thanks for having me, Zinno.
All right, take care. That'll do it for us here on A to Z here on this Friday. Appreciate you guys making A to Z your first listen every day. Make your second listen. Hitting Hard with John Chuckery right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, the ATL Sports Talker, taking you through all of the hard-hitting sports takes for everything in Atlanta sports. And again, you'll hear them right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Certainly appreciate you guys spending your time here with me today. Back on Monday for another big show. You guys have a great weekend. Don't take any crap from anybody. See ya.